This is the Miller Philosopher. I'm just going to be ranting, I guess you can call it, a little bit about something that's kind of been in my mind lately. And I just kind of wanted to give my thoughts on it without any kind of prep or script. It is regarding something about Rings of Power. So if you want to bounce out, that's fine. I got other stuff that has nothing to do with that coming up anyway. But if you're curious or just have nothing else better to do, feel free to stick around. So basically, this is regarding the portrayal of Sauron in Rings of Power. And if you watch any of my videos where I've brought it up either as a main topic or as part of a topic I've been doing, then you know, or at least should know, that I'm not exactly a huge fan of the show. There are many elements of how they treat certain parts of the lore that I do not like. But there's also aspects that I do like and that I do at least appreciate. And generally, the way I tend to view any kind of adaptation is I more or less kind of create my own headcanon. I take and pick what I like and what I don't like. And if I come across a scene that's just too far for me, I skip it. Simple as that. I do the same thing with the Peter Jackson movies as well and the Hobbit trilogy. Both trilogies I like very much, but there are some points where just kind of like I find kind of boring or just a bridge too far for me, so I just skip them and enjoy the rest of the movie. Simple as that. Having said that, regarding Sauron or the portrayal of Sauron, I am actually seriously enjoying how they're showing Sauron. With the exception of Venom Sauron. That just sucked. I couldn't stand to watch that. I skipped that shit. But after he turns into Anatar, I have been really enjoying that because the actor, I think, has really perfectly captured the deceptive charm of Sauron, while at the same time maintaining his venomous and evil nature, showing just little hints of it here and there, but nothing too, blatant or obvious or as cringeworthy as season one when he was doing Halbrand. I think it's easier for me, just because I know it's Anatar and it's not they're not trying to set up some sort of guessing game or whatever. But at the same time, it can be difficult to take a character who is known to be the second coming of evil, as it were, Middle-earth lore, and humanize him, I guess, in a way that makes them appealing, and yet at the same time will always remind you that this guy is evil. And honestly, again, Sauron is evil. He is treacherous. I've done a couple of videos on his nature and everything. Feel free to look that up in the playlist under Annuar or the First Age. But having said that, regarding the show, I'm honestly kind of Team Sauron. I find myself kind of rooting for him because they play him as so fucking charming, and for me, that really kind of brings home that element that Tolkien was talking about in terms of how, in the books during the Second Age, he was able to charm so many people, and so many wise, and even people who didn't know who he was and just knew that he wasn't to be trusted. It's almost like they can't peg him as absolutely evil and just kill him outright, like on sight, they just know, well, he's kind of bad news, but I can't say he's that bad, so let's just ignore him or send him away or something like that. Rather than just be like, oh shit, it's Sauron, fucking kill him now. I've really appreciated how the actor has played on how subtle he is and how he plays down and doesn't overpower, I guess, the elves with his magnificence as a Maiar, and that he's just there to help and, whatever, and stuff like that. And I especially like his interaction with the dwarves, because that I found was very lore accurate in terms of how it says that Aule made the dwarves to be very difficult or impossible to control with evil. They just get greedier. And that's exactly what happens in this portrayal of the relationship between Sauron and the dwarves. The dwarves either flat out ignore him or don't like him at all. And it's great just kind of seeing Durin giving him the side eye and just kind of like, kind of like almost borderline saying, fuck off kind of a thing. And how Sauron's just like, yeah, okay, sure. Even though he knows that, okay, this is not going exactly as it's planned, but shit's going to go down soon. Which I don't like the fact that they're bringing in the Balrog in Second Age. But cherry picking, he's satisfied enough that they're going to go down at some point. So I don't really have to worry about it. Just sit back and bide my time, basically, which in the books is exactly what tends to happen. Anyhow, I think it's challenging to take a character that is already kind of a cultural icon in terms of, again, thanks to the books and the Peter Jackson movies, that he's known as this giant flaming eyeball, or this kind of black, burning, terrorizing figure that is just like flat out evil. How do you take somebody, a character like that, and make it into someone who is just appealing and yet deceptive and still underlining evil, but yet you almost want to ignore that. And this is one of the things that Rings of Power got right, flat out. I liked how they got me to be cheering Sauron at this point, which it doesn't make sense. And I suppose if you're a hardcore book nerd, then, that can be probably insulting because, it's like Tolkien is the epitome, sorry, not Tolkien, sorry. Sauron is the epitome of evil. How can you, be shill like this and whatever? And it's like Tolkien wrote, this is exactly how Sauron deceived people. During the Second Age, his first tactic was deception. And his tactic overall was always dominating people's minds rather than just brute force. And even though he wasn't against brute force and torture, during the Second Age, that wasn't his first go-to. He had learned his lessons from what not to do from Morgoth, basically. So the fact that they were able to so subtly and deceptively work that in, is really good. And, I think about in Fellowship of the Ring where Frodo says something along the lines of, I would think something that is evil would look fair but smell fouler, when him and the other hobbits are talking about Aragorn. And taking that sentence in the context of Sauron, now that just really hits differently for me. It really is just like, wow, it's easier for me now to see how people would fall for the fairer form, the nicer form, the more seductive form, even though knowing as an outsider, as an audience, even though I know who he is, I know what he becomes, I can easily just watch The Hobbit right after, that particular last episode of Sauron being nice and like, well, this is what he's become, is this flaming fucking terrorizing aspect of who he truly is or has become or whatever. It's like I recognize all that, and yet I still find myself cheering him on, and I think that I attribute that first to the writings of Tolkien in terms of how he depicted and or hinted at these aspects of Sauron, who is a very nuanced character. He's not just the epitome of evil. He is complicated in his own way. He's done evil things, and he does become more or less the epitome of evil during the Second and Third Age. But as Tolkien himself said, or I forgot what he said, but he said that not all things begin as evil, not even Sauron. And how at the beginning of the Second Age, he was actually trying to help in his own way, and then just fell back into it like a crackhead. So, I attribute, the success, in my opinion, of their depiction of Sauron to Tolkien first. And then after that, to, this is probably one of the few times I'm going to credit the writers for this, but the writers in this particular context. I mean, there are issues here and there with how they're showing Sauron in terms of how with the orcs and all that. I don't like what they're doing with that. But overall, how the writers have improved their depiction of Sauron, and become less cringy about showing shit about it. Again, with the exception of Venom Sauron at the beginning of season 2, which was just bullshit. And then after that, the actor Charlie, I think his name was Charlie Vickers, his acting and the little mannerisms that he does, where when Celebrimbor, pushes him against the wall, and it's just like, oh fuck, because again, I'm thinking back to Lord of the Rings, and it's like, I know what this guy can do, and this guy just kind of pushed him like he was some sort of punk, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna fuck him up now, and he just kind of doesn't, and Sauron just kind of plays it low key, and it's just like, fuck, I get it now, and I like how Charlie Vickers really plays up that aspect of how Sauron really is holding back or saving it up so that when he does go off on him, it's going to be bad because, he's got a lot of stored up anger now, to just kind of, unleash on him at some point. Now, having said all that, if they try to pair Sauron with Galadriel, then yeah, you can almost more or less forget everything I just said, because that is just going to absolutely kill it for me. That is my bridge too far right there. So yeah. But anyway, that was my rant, and again, if you're not a fan of Rings of Power, that's okay, that's fine, whatever. Again, I cherry pick. I don't watch the show hardcore, but where I do catch it, if there's scenes I don't like or that are too far from me, I skip them. That's it. And I move on to something that, oh, this is actually kind of good and whatever. But anyways, thanks for your time. And this is the Miller Philosopher. Hope you guys have a good day.